I had always had a desire to teach at the post-secondary level. After spending a number of years in the K-12 system, I came across the advertisement for Director of Education / Education instructor at Cowley, and decided that I would apply just to see what would happen. And here I am, 17 years later.
I had taught for 16 years at Newkirk, and I'd been doing some adjunct teaching at NOC, and so when the job came open, I applied and was hired in August of 2000, and I've been here ever since.
My mom made me do it. I think she kind of had this thought process that being a single mom, it would offer me an opportunity to have a schedule that was somewhat similar to my kids. And so I started taking classes, fell in love with it, started working at a child care center, fell in love with working with the kids, and then it just kind of grew from there.
I had a great history teacher in high school, and that made me want to go into teaching. And I had a good English teacher who was pretty strict on how you should keep the students in line, so I kind of patterned myself after her. And then the history part, I just had a great teacher. And so ever since then, I've just loved it, but it was time to go.
When I was a kid, I always thought, I'm going to teach, because I loved, I taught my stuffed animals, and then I taught all my friends and my little brother, and I always thought that, and then I got older and I thought, oh, teachers don't make money. I'm not going to teach. So I went into like HR, and so that's what my first career was. And so I went into that with savings and savings and loan was where I was hired with that. Then I went through when they had all their upheaval, and I got to let everybody go, and was the last one to go when savings and loans went under. And that was my time. I thought, you've always said you were going to go back to college to teach. So I did, because I thought it's now or never. Either you are or you aren't.
I've always wanted to teach at a community college, and I've taught for high school for 16 years and did some adjunct teaching, even did some adjunct teaching here at one time back in the 90s, and I just thought it's more freedom. You can kick people out if they misbehave, and you don't have to worry about upsetting a parent, so it was plus the pay was a lot better. Going from Newkirk to Cowley was a big jump, like $5,000 jump.
Right, because you're either going to do it now when a whole industry went under, or you're never going to do it. So I did, and then I loved the classes because they were literature and writing creatively, and my husband thought, we're going to be poor forever, because she is going to stay in classes forever. And then after that, though, as soon as I got to be in the classroom, I just loved it. And so then he thought, oh yeah, she'll finally work. right. So maybe she'll make some money finally. So because I did, as soon as I stepped in the classroom, and it was at Oklahoma State University that I was a graduate student, and they have a wonderful program, and your classes are your classes. You're not a teaching assistant. You are in charge of the classes. And as soon as I had my first one, I was like, oh, I want to do this full time. My love of writing actually came from my love of reading. I just, from when I was a kid, I loved to read. And then, then I loved to see, where different authors would take you in different ways, and initially I just loved good mysteries. So, I was, all kinds of mysteries. And even from when I was real little, I would, anything that was a mystery. So I'd read all the kids' mystery type books and stuff. And so I loved to see how they came together, and if they could surprise me, and if I couldn't guess, and they'd have these twists. And so I'd look at that. And then, after that, it really became, I liked things that pulled in nature and stuff. And I don't mean nonfiction, I mean like poetry or inspirational, and if it used nature, because I love to be outside. So then I'd start really watching how there would be neat description that pulled in nature, and it made you feel something. So it was like you could have all this writing that was emotional, but it touched on nature and the beauty or sadness or all of those things, and it would come from using nature. And then as I got older, I think, even as a teen, just realizing that writing could be really healing. And you could work through issues through writing. And I think, I realized that long before I knew it was, people used it actually in therapy and things like that. When I was much older, then I've actually done that as my postgraduate studies. I've went to a lot of different courses and workshops that are really intensive that have been using writing for healing, where I've been one of the only educators. It's been all psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff who use it in their practice, because I've been really interested in that side of writing as actual healing. So I've worked with a lot of people who use it, with veterans and with domestic abuse victims and things like that, because I think we miss out on a lot when we can just pull in our emotions by writing, and letting the writing first be really chaotic, and then letting ourselves kind of bring it in and focus it and do something that really helps ourselves. And I think when I was young, I found that, without knowing that I really had. But when you go through the turbulent, or well, maybe you haven't had to do that, but when I would go through turbulent, teen times when I just felt out of control, or situations felt beyond my control, or my emotions just felt like they were, not reined in at all, I could write and then feel differently or better. It helped me think things through and stuff. And same when I was a young adult and trying to work through things, writing would just really, help me think them out, think things through. And so I realized that younger, and then when I got older and realized that was, a real avenue that people used to help in those situations, then I really wanted to explore it more, and I still go to workshops and do things with that, and love that part of writing. So I was ready to graduate when I graduated and step in, and they are such a wonderful program. I was completely ready, so that I've never looked back on. The only thing I would say is in human resources, it really prepared me to be department chair. So, that those type of things, the supervisory side, the forms, the meetings, all of those things, I feel like I was really prepared for. So I guess I don't regret doing that, because I feel I was really prepared for the other things that I've done here, and feel like I've done well and maybe helped the department or helped the college, but I would have taken more years teaching and being with students, because I love students, and that's just my greatest pleasure, and all have come from being in the classroom and other places and other things that I've been able to be with students.
I think the time that I had at the elementary level offered me some opportunities to kind of filter through and see who I wanted to work with, what grade level or what populations, and then eventually I worked my way to the middle school, which was another wonderful opportunity, because they are a very unique group as they go through that very interesting stage in life. And then I really fell in love working with gifted learners. And so then I moved to the high school level, and I was working with our gifted learners at a high school here in Kansas. And then from there, knew that eventually I wanted to get to a post-secondary. So
I think favorite moments at Cowley always have to include writers' corners, because that just incorporates so many students presenting works, and it's always nerve-wracking for them, to present original works, some of their writing that's original things that they've written, and I'm always so proud of them when they do that, because it's different than, they're on a stage, but it's still different than, you know, like when we, and many of them are part of some of these other arts organizations and stuff, but it feels different to them than when they're in the choir or the band or the theater and it's not something they've written. So they're getting to do art at things like that, but it's still different to get up and do your own work, perform your own things that you've written and hope that it's well received. And it always is. I mean, we never have an audience that doesn't appreciate, you know, that genuineness of what someone is getting up and presenting and that they've written. And I just think every single one, you know, has just been special in its own way, because you'll have some students who it's the first time they've ever done that, right? And always it's new works for the students. So even if they've done it before, this is something new that they've written that they've never presented before. And so those are always my favorite times.
I've got lots of videos from the past putting on hits. So, and then they quit doing it here. People got bored with it. And so when Peyton started again, I thought, I'm going to get back in there. So I did it for the last 2 years, and I had already decided that if I wasn't going to retire, I was going to do the one next year, but then I retired. So.
My best moments at Cowley, you know, obviously working with my students in the class, which everybody says that. The students are, you know, why we're here, the students who I'm passionate about. One of the things that I recognized is I saw some opportunities for change in education, and I felt as though I could make a bigger change working with future teachers. And so now getting the opportunity to have some of my former students come back and tell me what they're doing out in the classrooms and the kinds of things that they've tried to implement into their programs has been exciting. I think one of the most heartfelt projects that I've ever worked on is our clothing drive. For a number of years here at Cowley College, I worked with education majors as well as some students here on campus that needed service hours for whatever reason, and we would collect clothing. And each year we would collect anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 articles of clothing and coats and shoes and etc. And we would fill the right room, and then families from the local schools could come in, no questions asked. And they could come in and get any clothing they wanted or needed for free. And so watching the families' eyes and appreciation and hearing the stories from local teachers about kids going back to the schools saying, look at my new shoes or look at my new coat, when they weren't in fact new at all. They were gently used things, but yet, you know, the kids were so pleased to get anything that fit, or, you know, shoes that weren't being held together by duct tape. And then watching my own education majors kind of break down in tears and realize the impact that they were making with that project.
So I thought maybe I might come back, but you know, I doubt if I will though. But that was my favorite part. And being in charge of the foster parent program for athletes, I've done that for almost 20 years, and I got close to a number of baseball players and basketball players, and so that's one thing I'm really glad I did. But there came a time when it got to be students weren't as interested in it, so I kind of decided to give it up there.
What made you start doing the foster parent?
Well, I had some baseball players in class that I felt connection to. So back then, Bruce Watson was in charge. So I just went to Bruce and I said, Bruce, can I help you and I'll do baseball? And he said, sure. And that's what got me in it. I still hear from some of my foster baseball kids, students from years ago.
You know, as far as in the department, in the Humanities and Communication department, I just think working with the faculty in this department is just, I don't know, I don't even know how to tell you what a joy that is. I just feel like we have the best department ever. They, you know, they just have each other's back. You know, I mean, we would just bend over backwards to help one another. And I think the strength that has, I mean, you know, we've felt it, we've known it all along, but then through COVID, through any time that anybody has something tough going on at home, or an illness, or something with their family, or, anything else, maybe a death in the family, maybe an extended illness for them or someone else in their family, everyone just picks up the slack. Everyone just is willing to help in any way that they can.
Gosh, the department I'm in, we're all close. I mean, when I turned 60, they decorated my classroom, they've decorated my office, and every time somebody has a birthday, we're always constantly writing a little note on the card. We're really good. We're really close. And that's going to be the sad part, is leaving the people that I'm close to. Todd's a jokester. I'm a jokester, and it kind of escalated to, I started putting Todd on my test and quizzes, and as you well know, Todd puts me on his test and stuff, and people really thought we did not like each other, but we're just good friends. And it's been, matter of fact, when I told him I was retiring, he goes, well, thanks a lot. He goes, now I got to change about 50 PowerPoint slides and test questions now. So it was just more fun than anything.
My advice to future students would be to really watch for those open doors and to take advantage of everything you can. Because I think that most of us and most of you will find great combinations of things you're passionate about that will lead you to jobs that you're really happy in. It won't be one small thing. So you can have your major or your pathway that you maybe get a degree in. And that may lead you somewhat to what you're going to do. But the people that I know, the students that I know, the friends that I know that have been happiest in what they're doing in life, it's been that and other things they're passionate about that have actually come together in what they're doing in life that have made them truly happy and content in their jobs. It's not been just one thing. It's not been just a degree, or it's not been just somebody that they know that has a foot in the door, or just this or just that. It's not been one thing. It's been this combination of things that they never would have thought would have come together, and then there's that door open. So you have to watch for those open doors, because they'll be there, and they'll open for you, and they'll open for other Cowley graduates down the line, and you have to watch for those, because you'll just be amazed. The world changes so quickly, and the types of jobs that are needed out there are not going to be on this narrow path that sometimes is all we see. They're going to be with these combined wonderful things that are going to come up, and you're going to find such creative things that are going to open for you that you don't want to miss the surprises that are wonderful.
Well, go to class on time, and that was always my stickler. On time, and I've not had any trouble with students being late, as you well know, and I would suggest get to class on time, listen to the instructor, don't be putting the ear things, I can't think what they're called, AirPods, and listen to the instructor, because a lot of times they don't listen, then they'll be going and saying, I didn't know that. I would suggest just get to class on time and enjoy it here. Enjoy it.
I think trying to find your resources that are here on campus is critical. We have had so many events happen over the last few years that have really impacted our lives, and we see where a lot of students aren't taking advantage of the resources here on campus so they can get through some of those struggles and some of those challenges of daily life, or personal challenges that they're having. Sometimes just having a place to go and vent is significant, and so really looking at what are those resources on campus, because they are here, and finding those and tapping into those resources.
When they leave Cowley, don't forget your friends. Don't forget the instructors that you came close to. Stay in contact, because life's too short just to kind of hi and bye. I would suggest stay in touch with Cowley.